I'm gonna beat the fuck out of Tony. Tony can take a shot. I'm gonna beat the fuck. I like to give shots. I'm gonna beat the fuck out of Tony.
I've never had my eye on Kevin Lee. I saw one time when he was hitting mitts, actually it was Thai pads, out in San Diego, and I was not laughing, but I saw it at my coach, and afterwards I kind of giggled a little bit. I was like, that's kind of shit. It worked.
Hello everybody, welcome to MMA Latest. This is the UFC 216 preview. My name is Stephen House and today I am joined by Rodney, live from Las Vegas, and I'm also joined by Harry, and we're going to be talking about all the hot topics that's coming out for UFC 216. We're going to go into breaking down the fights, and we're also going to ask, what is the deal with an interim title being headline when we've got Mighty Mouse Johnson about to break the record for consecutive defences? Rodney, talk to me, what is going on, man?
Yeah, you know, I actually I spoke to Mighty Mouse Johnson about that last week on the conference call, which I put a little snippet of that audio in the latest edition of the MMA Latest Roundtable podcast, which I had Razak Judo Thunder Al Hassan, so you can listen to his opinion. But in short, what he said was, you know, I asked him point blank. I said, look, there's always been a lot of talk of you not really getting the promotion that a lot of people feel you deserve. It's come from you. It's, you know, the UFC has weighed in on the subject. And what are your thoughts? I said, how do you feel they promoted you for UFC 215? And he said, I feel like there was a lot of promotion, and I feel the UFC did a good job. I don't know if I agree with that, especially going into 216, because the magnitude of how spectacular this is. You got a guy who's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, and he's getting ready to break the record set by Anderson Silva. I think there should be more emphasis on that. As far as it not being the main event, he also weighed in on that. He said, you know, he was fine with that. He wasn't bothered by it. I can kind of understand, because once those things are set and the contracts are in place for the guys that are in the main event, it's kind of underhanded to then go back and kind of, for lack of a better word, screw them out of, you know, extra money that they may have been entitled to. But it is what it is. You know, selfishly, I'm glad that at least that we get to witness the fight here in Las Vegas.
Like, Harry, where's the $1 million music video style promotion that we saw for Aldo McGregor? Where's the press tours? Where's everything that you see? The UFC comes out and they says, the lightweights, they're not really draws. You know, no one really cares about them. There's not much weight difference between what Conor was at 145 and what DJ is at 125. Let's face it. So where is all this promotion? Because if you make it a big deal, it's a big deal.
Exactly. I think, adding on to Rodney's points, it's all about the relationship between Dana and DJ. As we've known, when DJ didn't want to fight Dillashaw, it was, I mean, we had so much about threatening to scrap the division, etc. But I'm kind of not surprised he didn't book him. I mean, the fight was supposed to happen, last month at 215, and DJ was going to headline that. But, I mean, I feel like we shouldn't get caught away with saying, just because we're saying, oh, we should headline it, it doesn't devalue Lee against Ferguson. Realistically, we have a person here who's about to break this record, and the only argument is his division is too shallow, and that's the argument people have. But I mean, look at how he's walked through these people. I personally think that regardless of Lee Ferguson, yes, it's a fantastic fight, and sometimes the fights in flyweight don't live up to what people want, but people expect too much. I mean, they expect to see like bloodbaths every fight, but they don't respect the talent that DJ brings. But, I mean, will we ever see the promotion for him? I don't think so. But it is what it is, really.
No, I think you're right. I don't think we are going to see the promotion that he absolutely deserves. Now, I think on a slightly related note, are Ferguson and Lee being sort of pushed quite hard? I mean, one, because they're both exciting fighters. Two, because they're both on this bit of a tear. Are we also seeing them promoted in the eventual event that we're going to see them line up against the rematch, or the rebirthing, the re-emergence of Conor McGregor as an actual MMA fighter? Are we going to see Conor McGregor defend this belt for starters? And is it going to be against Lee or Ferguson? Rodney, what do you reckon?
You know, according to what he says, according to what Dana White says, he's targeting a December return. But I also asked Kevin Lee that question on the conference call. I said, do you really believe that? Because when we spoke to him at the UFC Performance Institute for Media Day about a month ago, a little over a month ago, he said he didn't believe that. He didn't believe that McGregor would be ready. But it gets into a really tricky situation. These interim titles are so controversial when they actually do what they're intended to do, such as the case with Max Holloway, for example. He was the interim title holder. He won it decisively against Anthony Pettis, and then he came out and he unified the Undisputed Championship very decisively against Jose Aldo. that, my friends, and it was a pretty quick turnaround. That, my friends, is a perfect example of when everything goes right with an interim title. With Conor McGregor, everything for the future of these guys in the main event really hinges upon him. But again, for Kevin Lee, just to quote him, he said, "Look, I want Khabib. I think that's realistically the next guy I'm fighting. So we'll have to see what Conor wants to do." But he spent the entirety of this year not competing in MMA, rather in boxing. So it's hard to believe that after all that media, all that tough fight camp and that really tough fight that he had with Floyd Mayweather, that he will then reset, get into another fight camp right before the holidays, and he has a new baby. So I don't see that happening.
Harry, we've heard a rumoured third...
One cap.
Sorry, my mate.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but perhaps he should be stripped if it comes to that, because then we'll be looking at 1 year, and that's just not... I hate to use the word fair, but it doesn't make sense.
I think since the takeover, we've not really seen what we saw pre the takeover, which was where it was an honest ranking system and the best people generally got the best fights. It seems to be money fight, money fight, money fight. Maybe that's the fighters taking a little bit of control. Maybe that's the new organisation and the new matchmaking being at play. Maybe it's a combination of the two. But I do think this rumoured third matchup now with Nate Diaz is becoming a little bit of a farce. You've iced the division for long enough now. You need to make your mind up. For me, he probably is bigger than the sport, unfortunately, but he needs to make a decision. Are you going to be an MMA fighter? Cool, get in the cage, we've got a line of killers that's waiting to fight you. Or are you just going to keep fighting Nate Diaz forever? Because I'm not interested in seeing that fight, I've got to be honest. Harry, what about you, mate?
The same as you guys. I mean, do I think he'll face the winner of Lee Ferguson when he comes back? No. I think it'll be the Diaz-free fight. I mean, we were originally thinking it would be the end of this year. I mean, I've seen some reports that say St. Patrick's Day next year, but I can't see that not being the fight when McGregor comes back. And I think that what people forget is we were supposed to have this interim belt 8 months ago in March, and we're only getting it right now. But I mean, I think regardless of the outcome of this fight, whoever wins it, will they be defending the interim belt? I mean, the last time I remember someone defending the interim belt was, I think, in the heavyweight division, and that's when Velasquez was injured. And there's no real, like Rodney gave the example of Holloway winning it, then legitimizing it. That's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, that's how you want it to be.
Exactly. It seems like we're just throwing the belts around now just so we can say the card has 2 title fights, when realistically we're waiting for Conor to come back just so we can prioritise him. But yeah, the fight that I see happening next for McGregor is 100% Diaz 3.
Rodney, where do you see him going next?
Let me just add something to that too. Dana White has expressed his reluctance to introduce a 165-pound division, but yet all the experts, many fighters, a lot of people that have weighed, I don't think I've heard anyone really come out for an argument against that. And you know what? If you look at Tony Ferguson, you look at Kevin Lee, that's actually a perfect division. This would be a perfect time to go ahead and establish that division and create that championship. But it is what it is. So that's clearly not happening. As far as Nate Diaz, yeah, you talked about back in March, UFC 209. I was here for that, and I tell you, 209, right? That's the Diaz brothers. That's their thing. That's their area code. That's their hashtag, if you will. The T-shirts, the whole thing, the whole cult gets behind that number. And it was UFC 209. They had the opportunity to make that a massive event, and Nick Diaz was offered a fight against Robbie Lawler in a rematch, which would have been huge. Nate Diaz was offered Eddie Alvarez, who was the previous champion. It makes no sense. Had he gone in there and beaten Eddie Alvarez, then we could make sense of a conversation about him fighting for the lightweight title. But if you're talking about him coming back in March to fight Conor McGregor, either outside of the division at 170 again, or fighting for the lightweight title, that's just that's dirty pool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, is that what they're honestly thinking about? Are they thinking about Diaz coming into a title fight? Because there's so many people in front of him in the queue at 155 for that. It's absolute nonsense if he gets that fight for me.
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's forget about projecting what's going to happen after this event. We've got a cracking event this weekend, and we want to know what you guys think for the breaking down of these fights. So the first one that we're going to talk about then is Lewis against Vadim. Harry, tell the people how this one's going down.
Yeah, like you said, this is where we get into the actual relevant fights. And I like Lewis in this fight, but I like Vadim more just because I think the path for victory so much more for Vadim than it is for Lewis. I mean, for the first time, we saw what happened when someone could take Lewis's best shots. And no surprise, it was Mark Hunt that did that. And I believe it was the third round, and he was just absolutely exhausted. I don't see Lewis going in there and stopping Vadim in the first round, nor do I see Lewis winning by ground. It just doesn't seem right for Lewis to win by any other way, by knockout. I think what will happen in this fight is Vadim will get him down, and we always see with Lewis, he obviously just stands back up. He doesn't have really any technical way to get back up. He's just so strong he can just stand back up. And I think that's where he'll be caught by Vadim, most likely in a submission of some sort. So because of that, I'm going to go with Vadim to win by third round armbar.
Oof, ballsy. Rodney, what are you feeling?
Yeah, I didn't see Stipe finishing Vadim the way he did either, and that's just the thing about the heavyweight division. These guys hit so hard. If you get touched on the chin, it's lights out. I mean, that's with any division, but especially in the heavyweights. That being said, I don't think. I mean, Vadim is obviously more accomplished. He's more well-rounded, and he's a very crafty striker. He's developed into quite the crafty striker over these last few years, and the thing is, though, Derek Lewis's style is that he just comes forward. He's aggressive, and he just tries to murder you. And then, you touched on the point of, him having very limited ground game just out of sheer, utility. The fact that he's just so huge and so explosive, he doesn't really perfect those fine details like we saw him against Roy Nelson eke out a close decision because Roy Nelson attempted to hold him down, and it just wasn't possible. And Roy Nelson is a legitimate black belt, not on the level of Vadim, though. So if we get to the ground, we're not going to see the typical Roy Nelson lay and pray. We're going to see Vadim trying to go for one of his slick submissions. So it's very possible. Wow, this one, I can't really make a prediction, but if I have to back anyone, it's going to be my man from Houston, the Black Beast.
Oh, so it's me that gets to decide which way we're going with this one then. All right, cool. So I think, for me, this one's going to come down to how smart Vadim plays this, because if he tries to get in there and bang with him, if he makes a brawl out of this one, I see Lewis's power taking over. I also see Vadim's lack of head movement being a problem for him as well. And I see him getting caught by Lewis multiple times. And there's only so many of them, like you said, you can take from a guy with the power of Lewis. And it's going to be night-night time. So if Vadim is smart, he stays on the outside, he uses his kicks, he uses his distance. And any time that he feels like it, just gets in a cheeky little takedown. A couple of times around, he's going to win it on the cards for me. And then he just has to stay at range and stop any attempt to make this a brawl. So I'm going for Vadim by unanimous decision. Couldn't get my words out then. So I think that's how it's going to go down. I don't think this is going to be the exciting fight, unfortunately, but I do think it's going to be a good technical fight, because it's going to be interesting to see who can put their style of fight onto this one, I think. The next one that we've got then is the Taz Mexican Devil, which might be hands down the worst nickname in the history of fighting, against Mighty Mouse Demetrious Johnson, which might be the best nickname in all of fighting, let's face it. So, Rodney, talk to me about this one. How do you see this one going down?
He's just so good. He's so good. I remember, I think it was one of his first fights in the UFC under the actual UFC banner. Was across the street at MGM Grand. He was actually an underdog because nobody really knew who he was, and ever since then he's just racked up one win after another, became the champion, defended it multiple times, and rightfully so, the pound-for-pound #1 champ. I just don't think that Ray Borg has the experience, the maturity, and just the overall skill to beat Mighty Mouse. I think Mighty Mouse just gets better and better every time we see him. I think he wins this fight by finish.
Well, I look at Borg and I say, solid striking, great wrestling, he's tenacious, but DJ is all of those on 1 or 2 levels higher than what Borg can bring. And I think you're right, he's cleaned out his division. Borg is going to be no different. I see Mighty Mouse winning this by however he decides to win it. Harry, have you got anything different to what we're adding there?
No surprises here, I don't. Straight off the back, I'm just going to say DJ win this one. He wins it in comfortable fashion. I mean, it's scary because when you're watching him, it's almost like after the first minute of the fight, you know how it's going to play out. Bar the Tim Elliott fight, because obviously that first round was crazy. But, I mean, you've seen him with Cejudo, manhandles him in the clinch. Last fight with Wilson Hayes, submits him, and Hayes is an elite BJJ black belt. And I certainly did. I saw DJ win that fight, but not in the manner that it came from. And I mean, any of Borg's past accomplishments, I think, are just completely overruled by what DJ has done. And it's for that matter that I see DJ winning 3rd round, perhaps ground and pound. I'm going to go with that.
Interesting. So all of us are going for a DJ win. I don't think there's any shocks there. It's going to be a record night for DJ then, and well deserved, I think. So the main event, the one that we are looking forward to the most, is this going to be the explosive banger that we're all looking forward to, Harry?
Hard to tell, really. I'm kind of going like you said about the Lewis Vadim from this. I don't think it will be amazing, like for the casual fan that wants to see back and forth all the time. I think it will. I don't know if it will be as tactical as the most recent main events we've seen, such as Nunes-Shevchenko. I don't think it will be anything like that. But I certainly don't see it going the distance. And the reason because of that is because of Tony Ferguson, just because how innovative he is in there. I mean, what impresses me so much about him is not inside the octagon, it's outside. It's his preparation. I mean, when he fought RDA in Mexico City, you saw him go up to Big Bear Mountain weeks in advance, build himself a camp up there, and he's done the same for this fight as well. So I think it will be a good fight. I just don't see how Lee. I mean, the path in most of Lee's fights to win is takedowns, and we've seen what happens when you try and take Tony down. Is he forward rolls out of them? It's all this crazy stuff that we just don't know what we'll see. We might see new stuff as well on Saturday night, and it's for that reason that I see Tony winning it. I think Lee will be apprehensive to strike on the feet with him, and you'll find that out in the 1st round. And I'll see Tony winning by his trademark snap jitsu, he calls it. And I think he'll win, packed by his signature darts choke, maybe in the 3rd round. I'll go for that.
Rodney, what do you reckon?
I love this fight. I think this will be a great fight. Both of these gentlemen are an excellent representation of the new breed of fighter. They're just completely well-rounded, very dynamic. And their attitude, I've spoken, like I said before, during this discussion, I've spoken to both of them on more than one occasion. And I tell you, I love their attitude. I love their approach to fighting. And when you speak to them, their attitude really translates well into the octagon. In other words, they go in there, they don't back down, they look for a finish, they want to be the best of the best. And in a time where we talk about, the success or the level of success for certain events, certain pay-per-views, sort of relying on these big superstars that are starting to kind of go away, like Ronda Rousey or McGregor, who's, goes on these extended hiatus. Look, we need stars. So I'm very glad to see these two gentlemen that are, full of charisma and also, they talk a lot of trash, but they back it up. And their game, they'll fight anybody. That's the kind of person that you want as champion. So I think Kevin Lee doesn't get enough credit for how much better he's gotten since we first saw him. His initial fight in the UFC was a fairly short notice one against Al Iaquinta, who is no slouch, and that was a very, very good fight. And though he lost, he's been on a tear. I think he's got maybe one other loss. If I'm honest, I have to check, but I think there's only one more that I know of. And this is a huge step up for him. So we'll see. But I don't know. I'm having a tough time with it. I believe in him, though. I do believe in his convictions and his abilities. And I think he will. I think he'll snatch this belt Saturday.
Right. For me, I think this all boils down to can Kevin Lee get this to the ground? If he can get this to the ground, I think he can probably eke out a decision. But as Harry mentioned, if you can get this to the ground, it depends how you get it to the ground, because Tony Ferguson loves to spin out of stuff, he loves to forward roll out of stuff, and actually, on the takedown, on the penetration from the takedown is where Tony Ferguson's lethal dangerous. Doesn't use his hands, uses only his hips and his footwork to get out of the way of takedowns as they're coming in, and that's where he likes to find the dash choke, that's where he likes to get creative, that's where he's actually dangerous. He attacks your attack as you come in to take him down, and I think that's why he's such a dangerous fighter. Add that to let's have it sort of attitude to standing up. I think that Tony Ferguson is the guy to beat in this instance, and I think Kevin Lee's going to have to be at the top of his game to do this. But I also think that Tony Ferguson can give him openings as well, because of the spin shit that he likes, because of the unorthodox striking style that he's got. There's a lot of times where you'll see Tony Ferguson turn his back, and there's no one as deadly as someone like Kevin Lee coming in, getting that clinch around the waist and dragging him down to the mat. And I think that if I'm in Kevin Lee's camp, that's the one thing that I'm learning. Trying to get the timing, trying to get the tempo of when he likes to throw these unorthodox strikes, whether that's elbows, whether that's kicks, whether that's spins, and then try and duck under and get hold of the waist. And I think that's the opening for him, because I think coming in on the regular strike takedown, I think he's going to get caught with something, and I think that's an opening for Ferguson to go and do something. I think Tony edges this. I think he's going to wear him down, and I think he's going to get the KO inside the distance, and I reckon it's going to be quite early. I'm going to say 3rd round KO for Tony Ferguson on this one.
Woo!
I think it's going to be a cracking fight, and I can't wait. But anyway, that is enough from us. A nice short and sweet preview. We are going to be bringing these back for all of the UFC pay-per-views, so all of the numbered cards. Make sure to join us. Hit that subscribe button. We've got Rodney doing some work this week for us out in Vegas, so we've got loads of video content. So please subscribe, and let's get those numbers back up for MMA Latest. Thank you guys for joining us. Get any of your questions, comments, queries, anything like that in below. Follow these two guys over on Twitter, and we'll see you in the next one.